Hello and welcome to Rockies Recap, a part of the Rockies Now podcast network. I'm your host, Steven. Hope you guys had a wonderful Tuesday. Meanwhile, the Rockies did not have a good Tuesday. The Rockies lose to the Diamondbacks 3-2 in game two of the series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And yeah, so we're going to recap about that. Again, not much to recap, but there are some notes that I wrote down from tonight's game. So let's get into it, shall we? So, talking about the game tonight, the Rockies, one of the things that stood out is that the Rockies went 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. And so we've seen some of these games to start out the year where the Rockies score 8, 9 runs, right? And then the next game they only score 1, 2, 3 runs, and that's it. And the offense is inconsistent. The pitching has been pitching a little bit better, especially in the last few days or so. Even going back to the Rays series, the pitching has been quite a bit better, and so that's promising. And the Rockies, they're staying in these games. It's not like these blowout games, which is good. And so yeah, I mean the Rockies, they're being competitive in this games, and I think that's one of the positives that we can take away out of this. Even though the Rockies are now, I believe, 3-9 to start the year. But yeah, I think the only positive we can get out of this is that the Rockies are at least staying competitive in some of these games. So Tovar, he went 2 for 4 with a double tonight. He's now hitting over 300. He's hitting 302. Ryan McMahon is hitting 400. So again, like I mentioned last night, there's a bunch of these players. They're starting to off the season really, really well, especially Tovar, Doyle, McMahon, and but there's some of these guys that are having these slow starts. Chris Bryant, Nolan Jones, and Brendan Rodgers went a combined 0 for 11 tonight, and all three are having pretty slow starts to the year, especially Chris Bryant. And I know a lot of you guys know I'm a big fan of Chris Bryant, but again, this is bad. And Evan Lang from Purple Row, he put out a tweet, and I put it out on our story tonight, on our Instagram story, that it's tough seeing KB like this, and you got to feel for him. But at the same time, though, you, when he's bad like this, you have to put him down either 7, 8, or 9 spot in the lineup. You can't put him in the cleanup spot. You can't put him in the 5 hole, especially when you have opportunities to, tie the game or get the lead, and you're just really in some ways ruining the offense a little bit. And I think Bud Black, he needs to be better in putting Chris Bryant in the lineup, whether it's 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th, and especially to start the season, that needs to happen. And again, I hope that Chris Bryant can turn around. I think he can. I think he very well could. It's the start of the year. I mean, like I said, Nolan Jones and Brendan Rodgers are also having slow starts, but we all know what Nolan can do. We saw what happened, of course, last year, and we've seen some glimpses of Nolan Jones, having some good hits in some ball games so far this year. But again, it hasn't clicked. The offense hasn't clicked yet. A bunch of these guys, they haven't really clicked yet. So again, 0 for 11 tonight from all three of those guys. Not to mention Jake Cave, I think went 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 tonight. So again, the offense is just was bad tonight, especially with Merrill Kelly on the mound for the Diamondbacks. He pitched pretty well. Pitched 6 innings, I believe. So, but yeah, like I said, Brenton Doyle, he's hitting 302 after going 2 for 3 tonight. Again, like I said last night, I feel like every single game we're seeing Brenton Doyle get at least 1 or 2 hits every single game to start the year, which is what we want. So that's great to see. Cal Quantrill, he had a quality start, 6 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, no walks, and 6 strikeouts. I think that home run to Corbin Carroll early in the game, that was just a lucky swing. I feel like, that's just Corbin Carroll. That's not really a bad pitch. It wasn't even over the plate. It was actually on the outside of the plate. So that wasn't really a bad pitch. I mean, I think Quantrill pitched well tonight, honestly, especially 6 strikeouts too, because I want to say Quantrill's not a strikeout guy. So we'll take that. But again, I feel bad for Quantrill because he pitched his butt off tonight, and I think he definitely could have deserved a win if the Rockies offense was there. But anyways, he had a good quality start there. Good job from Victor Vodnik for getting out of somewhat of a jam. I think there was 2 runners on, but could have been worse because I think there was a runner at second, and there was a hard hit to Chris Bryant. He made a nice play defensively to get the out. So Victor Vodnik, he's looking really good to start the year. And yeah, again, I guess the main thing for tonight is that there was good pitching for the Rockies. It's just that we had missed opportunities offensively. And I think we've seen so many times to start the year, there's opportunities to where the Rockies have the bases loaded, or, first and second or second and third and nobody out, and we can only score one run at the most, if not, if any runs. And so that needs to be fixed. But again, there's some positives. At least the Rockies are staying competitive in some of these games against, against some of these play. I mean, the Rockies to start the year, I think the entire month of April, we're playing potential playoff teams or playoff teams from last year. So, again, kind of like to see it. So, speaking of tomorrow, game 3 for the Rockies against these Arizona Diamondbacks before they head on the road to Toronto. On the mound for the Rockies, Austin Gomber at 110 versus Tommy Henry, who the Rockies faced in game 3 of the season. And the Rockies won that game. Was it 9-4, I think? I need to double check that. But Tommy Henry, I believe, has a 7 ERA, so maybe it's a perfect opportunity for the Rockies to put some righty hitters in that box and hit some home runs or hit some dingers against Tommy Henry tomorrow. So it's a day game, so hopefully the balls will be flying tomorrow for the Rockies. It's going to be nice weather tomorrow too. So if you're going out to the ballpark, have fun. Stay cool because I think tomorrow is actually going to be a really, really nice day. So make sure you bring your sunscreen and everything for that. Some news around baseball. Jackson Holiday, I know we got Lux. He's pointing out in the comments for us. Thank you, Lux. Jackson Holiday, he's getting called up by the Baltimore Orioles, and I'm assuming he might be making his debut tomorrow. So for those, and I'm sure most of you guys know, I mean, you're a Rockies fan. Come on. Matt Holiday's son. This is Matt Holiday's son. He's going to be getting his debut maybe tomorrow for the Orioles, but he's getting called up. So congratulations to Jackson and his family and to his wife as well, and super excited. And I think the Orioles will be coming to Coors Field later this year, so that'll be pretty awesome. The Miami Marlins, man, they lost again to the Yankees. They are now 1-11, so at least the Rockies are not the Marlins. Yeah, it's bad. Not to mention, I think some of their pitchers, if not the entire rotation from last year, is basically decimated with injuries. Kind of familiar. But anyways, yeah, so again, I feel bad for Marlins fans all over the place. So again, I'm rooting for you guys, but this year is probably not going to be your year. Most likely, you're going to trade some people off pretty soon. And then this is a tough one because I've been a fan of this player ever since he made his debut, of course, with the Rockies, and that's Trevor Story. Trevor Story, what's announced today that he will need season-ending surgery on his shoulder. And it's tough, man, because, this is a guy that the Rockies wanted to bring back. And I know some people might not want to believe that, but the Rockies, they sent him multiple offers. He declined, and he decided it was time for him to move on. And he signed that contract with the Boston Red Sox back in 2022, which is kind of a good thing for the Rockies because if they would have signed him, they would have had Trevor Story instead of Chris Bryant. However, I know a lot of people say, well, I would rather have Trevor Story than Chris Bryant. But, if it was an extension, you're talking a bad extension, right? So, I mean, which one would you rather have, right? But again, you got to feel bad for Trevor Story here. He's been, again, decimated is the word, for tonight. He's been decimated with injuries over the last, 3 years, right, with the Red Sox. He hasn't even played a full season in the Red Sox uniform, if even half a season, full half season for them. So it's rough over there. And I feel for Trevor Story. There's a video out where he's kind of sharing his thoughts. He's choking up, and it's, you got to feel bad for Trevor, and hopefully he can, I don't know, bounce back in 2025. But again, it's just like this brings me back to memories of Troy Tulowitzki and how, the start of the start of his career was unbelievable. Of course, I don't remember that much because again, I was like I was coming out a toddler. I was like 4 or 5 years old when Tulowitzki made his debut, and but I was able to remember a little bit of Tulowitzki's prime before he kind of got injured. But this is just sad, and as a Trevor Story fan. And still to this day, I love Trevor Story. I have a T-shirt of him. It's just got to feel bad for the dude. So again, Trevor, feel bad for you, man. Get better. Hope you have a great 2025. But yeah, and not to mention, there's a bunch of pitching injuries going on in baseball, but that's a topic for another time. But let's get to our comments before we end tonight's recap. We got Fezzy D back in here tonight. The thing I noticed so much this season is that the guys put themselves into position to win. So far, at home, good at bats, at least for me, was seeing the young guys grow, and that's happening. Absolutely. Yeah. And good point, Fuzzy D, is that, especially with some of the young players too, because I'm not going to lie, there's a feeling, I don't know, it's a weird feeling. And honestly, for me, Yeah, 3-9 is not a good record, but honestly, for me, I really don't care because we already know this is a rebuilding year, and this is probably, like I said the other day, this is probably going to be another 100 loss season. So what? I mean, there's not really a difference between a 95 loss team and a 100 loss team. Really, it's not. It's not much big of a difference. You're basically a rebuilding team, right? I mean, even if the Rockies do lose 95 games. Well, great. They avoided 100 losses, but still, it's a bad team, right? So at the end of the day, this is a rebuilding team. Um, and the positives again is that the young guys are playing. Of course, Montero didn't, play tonight or Toglia, but those guys they're getting their at bats in, and some of them, at least most of them, are performing well, and so that's good. And I feel like the farm system is not to mention, I wanted to quickly talk about this before we end tonight too, because I don't want to, ramble on too much, but I want to say, was it Fresno, Spokane, and Hartford? They have not lost a game yet so far. And I think they played at least a few games so far in the minor leagues. So, I mean, it's early. I mean, it's only been like, I think this is their first week or their second week, but the Rockies farm system right now is looking really, really good, and in terms of wins, right? And so that's a positive. The Rockies have prospects coming up through the system that are looking really, really positive, really great. So that's something to hang your hat on. But again, this is not going to be a oh well, let's wait and see if the Rockies kind of no. This is going to be a bad year, and the Rockies are going to trade out pieces at the deadline, just like last year. The thing is, the key thing is, can we see a future with this Rockies team the next couple of years? Can we see these prospects come up and do well at the major league level? Again, we've seen sometimes that some of them click. And here's the thing I like to say too is, sometimes Tom reminds me of this because, I'm really excited about these prospects, but the truth is, the sad reality is some of these prospects don't work out, right? For instance, Raleigh Pine. I remember when he got drafted, a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to be like our ace." And again, there's still time, but again, at the same time, though, it just he's had issues, and so not every prospect is going to click, unfortunately. And but the Rockies, they had again, there's always that guy, and the Rockies, they have done an incredible job in the last few years in drafting and developing, and a lot of these guys they were drafted by or a lot of these players are drafted by the same guy that drafted Arenado Story and Charlie Blackmon. So again, the future is exciting. It's just that we have to have patience and we have to be ready for that when the time comes. So, again, thank you all for your comments. Let me get to one more here before we wrap up the show. We got one from again. Fuzzy D, thank you, Fuzzy D, for your comment. Chase Dolander, absolutely, and not to mention, I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but in his first start for Spokane, he pitched 5 innings and had 8 strikeouts. Again, really, really, really solid. Not to mention, he was throwing a no hitter into the 5th inning, and so I don't want to get my hopes up because as a Rockies fans, you don't want to get your hopes up, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is the next Paul Skeens, or he's Paul Skeens 2.0. But Dolander, he looked really good, but again, you always have to put that tag next to him. He's a prospect. He's developing. You're going to have good starts. You're going to have bad starts. Dolander's probably going to have some bad starts this year. Count on it. It's going to happen. But that was really exciting to see. And then Sean Sullivan, what was it? He pitched, again, 5 innings, but 5 or 6 innings, and he had 13 strikeouts. And again, this is minor leagues, but 13 strikeouts, regardless of whatever system or team you're on. 13 strikeouts is really, really good. And Sean Sullivan, who was drafted out of Wake Forest last year, was it in the first or second round? But he looks really, really good. So again, keep your eyes on the farm system. I guess I'll do a shout out for Blake Street Banner. They do awesome coverage over there on Twitter and Instagram. So make sure you follow those guys over there. They have their own podcast. So make sure you check them out. Anyway, folks, that will do for tonight. Make sure you're tuned in for tomorrow's recap for Game 3. Again, Tom has the Blue Jays series coming up later on when the Rockies will travel to Toronto. Hope you guys have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Rockies.